You've just been hired by FAB Corporation to prepare a flexible budget performance report. You have determined the following cost formulas and gathered the following actual cost data for March. During March, the company worked 26,000 machine hours and produced 1,500 units. The company had originally planned to work 30,000 machine hours during March. Let's prepare an activity and spending variance report. First, let's take a look at our planning budget. Our planning budget is based on our original planned hours of 30,000 hours. And let's go ahead and calculate our expenses. Our utilities have a fixed and a variable component. The fixed component is $20,600 plus 10 cents per machine hour. And we plan to work 30,000 machine hours. So our total utility expense is expected to be $23,600. Our maintenance expense also has a fixed component, which is $40,000 plus $1.60 per machine hour at 30,000 machine hours for a total of $88,000. Our supplies are purely variable at 30 cents per machine hour, so 30 cents times 30,000 machine hours gives us $9,000. Our indirect labor has a fixed component of $130,000 and a variable component of 70 cents per machine hour. We expect to spend $151,000 on indirect labor. Our depreciation expense is entirely fixed at $70,000. So our original planning budget has total expenses of $341,600. Let's go ahead now and look at our actual results. Our actual results were told that we worked 26,000 machine hours and that our utility costs are given as 24,200, maintenance costs are 78,100, supply expense is $8,400, our indirect labor cost was $149,600, and depreciation $71,500, for total actual costs of $331,800. Before we can prepare our activity and spending variance report, we need to calculate our flexible budget, which is based on our 26,000 machine hours. At 26,000 machine hours, we would have expected utility expenses of $23,200. That's the $20,600 fixed component plus 10 cents per machine hour, and 10 cents per machine hour times our 26,000 machine hours gives us a total utility cost of $23,200. Our maintenance cost, again, has a fixed component of $40,000 and $1.60 per machine hour. So $1.60 times, again, our actual machine hours of 26,000 hours gives us $81,600. Our supply expense is purely variable. 30 cents per machine hour times 26,000 machine hours gives us $7,800. Our indirect labor cost is $130,000 in fixed indirect labor cost and 70 cents per machine hour for a total of $148,200. And our flexible budget amount for depreciation expense is the same as our planning or original budget, which was $70,000. It was purely fixed. Our total flexible budget expenses then are $330,800. Let's go ahead and look at our activity variances. We're going to find, since our actual level of activity of 26,000 machine hours was less than our original planned budget of 30,000 machine hours, all of our activity variances for our expenses will be favorable. The difference between our original planning budget and our flexible budget for utilities is $400. And again, since our flexible budget amount is less than our original plan, it's a favorable variance. The difference between maintenance between our flexible budget and our original planning budget is $6,400. And again, since the flexible budget amount is less, it's a favorable variance. The difference for supply expenses is $1,200. And again, since the flexible budget is less than our planning budget, it's a favorable budget. The difference for indirect labor is $2,800. And again, it will be a favorable variance. For depreciation expense, we've got no difference. Our total activity variance for total expenses then is $10,800. And we would say that since our flexible budget is less than our original planning budget, this is a favorable variance. In reality, we should probably have for depreciation expense. It's neither favorable or unfavorable since it's zero. Let's go ahead now and take a look at our spending variances. The spending variance, again, is the difference between our actual results and our flexible budget. For utilities expense, the difference between our actual expenditures of $24,200 and our flexible budget of $23,200 is $1,000. And since our actual expenses are greater than what we would have expected at that level of activity, we say it's an unfavorable variance. The difference between our actual maintenance cost of $78,100 and our flexible budget of $81,600 is $3,500. And since our actual results are less than we would have expected to spend, we would say this is a favorable variance. The difference in supplies is $600, and since our actual costs were higher, it's an unfavorable variance. The difference for indirect labor is $1,400. And again, since our actual expenditures were greater than our flexible budget amount, it's an unfavorable variance. The difference in depreciation expense is $1,500. And since our actual cost was higher than we had budgeted, we would say this is an unfavorable variance. In total, we spent $1,000 more than we would have anticipated, and so we have a $1,000 unfavorable spending variance.